you're gonna break into. On you.
Just got done watching the fights. The kids are asleep. The wife's in the other room doing, well, what wives do.
Am I the only one that does a goddamn thing around here? How hard is it to pick up after a film?
So, decision time. You could either go in the other room and deal with...
After all I've done today, you expect me to wanna...
Or keep it locked right here. Because it's time for the Billy C. post-fight wrap-up on Fight Now TV. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Billy C.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for Fight Now TV's post-fight show with me, Billy C. Just following the Nonito Donaire-Toshiaki fight, and actually the fight before that was a real good one with Bam Bam Rios and Mike Alvarado. And joining us right now, right off the bat, he's the trainer for World Light Heavyweight Champion and a Billy C. Boxing Hall of Famer, John Iceman Scully. Well, we just lost Scully, so we got to get him right back here. We had him on there for a second, and I just lost him. Hopefully, this isn't things that are going to be coming on for the rest of the night with the phone system. So, and speaking of phone system, give us a shout. John, it's Scully. Are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Sorry, brother. I just gave you a nice intro and everything, and as soon as we went to you, I dropped you. Sorry about that, man. What's going on?
Not much. Just hanging out. I'm actually going up to Boston tomorrow to do some training with a fighter, and so just staying in the boxing game all weekend.
Well, listen, we just got finished watching a couple of good fights. Well, at least one of the two. Let's talk about the main event first. Yeah, it seemed like, to me anyway, John, it seemed like Nishioka was looking to take Nonito Donaire into the later rounds, and then maybe somewhere along the way just decided to survive. I mean, what did you think?
You know what? To be honest with you, I wasn't able to watch the whole thing closely, but because something else was going on in the background here. But sometimes the guy looks a certain way. You say, well, you could watch a fight and say, man, the guy really didn't look like he wanted to fight, or you could say the guy looked tentative. Different things like that. But the fact is, he may have came into the fight full of, vim and vigor, whatever the term is, but the champion has something to do with changing that. A lot of guys, like Tyson used to say, everyone has a plan until they get hit, and then the plan changes a little bit. And obviously, Donaire showed quite a bit of power, and and he got off to a real good start, and then his power came into effect. And maybe the guy figured, man, the guy started out good, and now he's hitting even harder later in the fight, and and then he made a little comeback, and then Donaire stops him, drops him again, and so it's you can't take anything away from Donaire. I mean, he was a big factor in the way things went.
Yeah, and no doubt, it didn't seem like Donaire was affected at all by any of the shots that Nishioka did land, and he did seem like he's waiting to engage. If Nishioka would have obliged. Now, did you get a chance to see what arguably could be fight of the year so far with Mike Alvarado going up against Bam Bam Rios?
Yeah. I was able to pay a little bit more attention to that one, and I've always said, just even when he was just starting out, I did an interview. I can't remember who it was, and they mentioned like who you keeping an eye on, and Rios was one of those guys. I mean, he just he's always going to be in a good fight. He's got that mentality, that attitude. I mean, he's the guy that TV should want to see, and unfortunately. I can't say, everyone's down on him because of his weight issues, but, some guys, I mean, they just, like James Toney, I mean, he just, 1 minute he's 160, and the next minute he's having trouble making 175. Guys, sometimes their body isn't cooperating or whatever the case may be, but, Brandon Rios, weight problems aside, I mean, he's an exciting fighter. I mean, I would watch him 7 days a week if he was on TV.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I can definitely relate to that. One minute I'm 195 pounds. I eat a whole pizza. Then I'm 210 pounds. I know how that goes, John.
Yeah. A lot of us fighters have those issues.
Yeah, I have issues in a different way. But Bam Bam Rios, what do you think about the weight, man? I mean, this was his first legitimate fight at junior welterweight. He was even alluding to the fact that he wants to go up to welterweight. For him to take on a guy like Mike Alvarado for his first fight, I thought it was kind of, to be honest with you, I thought it was kind of crazy. I would have thought that he would have taken an easier fight, but he showed us all he can handle it. I do know one thing. His punches that he was landing on Alvarado weren't doing the effect that they normally do. And likewise, he was handling the shots from Alvarado. What do you think? I just lost you, John. I got to get you back. Just as John was going to give us his thoughts, we drop him again. So that's not a good sign with the way the system is working right now. But we'll see if we can't get him back on, and we'll open up the phone lines as soon as we get John back here, and hopefully we'll hang up on some more people. Sorry about that, John. I know you heard me because when I drop you, you still hear me and I can't hear you. So I had just asked you what your thoughts were on those two issues with Bam Bam Rios.
Repeat the question.
What I was saying, two things. Basically, one, Bam Bam Rios moving up into the junior welterweight division. He was landing some hard shots. At first, it didn't seem like they were affecting Alvarado. And likewise, when Bam Bam Rios was taking the shots from Alvarado, they didn't seem to really be putting him in any kind of trouble either.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's a tough guy, and they're both tough guys. I mean, Alvarado was like, what was he, 33 and 0.
Oh, yeah.
33 and 0, 23 knockouts. So, he's going to take some punches. He's no cream puff. And at that level, I mean, you could get a guy that's a good puncher, and he could fight the world champion, and maybe that guy takes his punches for, look at Julian Jackson when he fought Thomas Tate. I mean, he's obliterating people, and all of a sudden Thomas Tate comes along and takes everything he has for 12 rounds in a good fight, and then in his next fight, Thomas gets knocked out in 2 rounds by Roy Jones, So it's all relative depending on the day and the moment, and Rios is a strong puncher. I mean, maybe it didn't look like he was affecting Alvarado early on, but, I wouldn't necessarily want to be on the receiving end of those punches, regardless of how tame they may have looked at a time.
They alluded to the fact that Bam Bam Rios is being discussed as a possible opponent for the winner of Manny Pacquiao against Juan Manuel Marquez, numero cuatro. What's your thoughts on that one? we dropped you again, John. I got to get John back. I apologize for that. We got some issues here that are starting to tick me off, but we'll get them resolved here in 1 second. Hopefully, as soon as John gets back. I'm sorry about that, man. I don't know if it's your end or mine, but did you hear what I asked?
Oh yeah. Hey, I would love to see that fight, and I think actually, as good as Brandon Rios has been, I think he's been waiting for an opportunity for a fight like that. And I think him against the winner of either of those fights, I think fans will get their money's worth. I think Brandon Rios is the type of guy. I mean, say what you want. He had that incident with the Freddie Roach thing a couple of years ago, and a lot of people were down on him. And they may not like his attitude or his cockiness or whatever, but you can guarantee he's going to come and he's going to bring everything. And at the end of the day, that's all you want. And so I think he's going to. I think he would be. I would welcome to see him against either one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking of it real quick, off the top of my head, I think the style of Juan Manuel Marquez would make it a more interesting fight than Manny Pacquiao. But who knows? If Manny Pacquiao engaged with him, that could be fireworks.
Right. Yeah,
what about
sure.
what about Nonito Donaire? What's next for him? Do you think a showdown with Guillermo Rigondeaux?
I mean, that's the one that. In that weight, I mean, you don't have it's not like any of the guys are necessarily household names. Even those two. Even Donaire. I mean, Donaire is probably at this point, like right now, this moment, he's the most well-known he's ever been in his entire life. Certainly as a boxer. So, the hardcore fans, obviously, that's the only fight to me at that weight that I would really say, wow, this is one we should all get together at Buffalo Wild Wings and we should watch this one. So I would certainly like to see it. And, and the winner is going to be so much more well-known and respected. And so I'm all for that fight.
One last question, John. Victor Chinian just entered into the same division. Seems to be, sticking as close as he can to Donaire. Do you think that fight will ever happen, the rematch, or do you think that that's just forget about it? It's not going to happen. Donaire's going to fight Rigondeaux, and then maybe Donaire goes on to bigger and better things. And I'm going to have to repeat all of that because we just hung up on John again. So we will. Try and get him back one more time. I'm sorry, man. What I was asking you was Victor Chinian seems to be following Nonito Donaire around. Do you think that rematch will ever take place, or is it just Donaire against Rigondeaux and then he moves up?
I mean, I think that scenario, with Rigondeaux, I think is more, interesting. I think people that's what they want to see. Me personally, that's what I would wish to happen next. And I think I think people are really up on Rigondeaux. You hear his name more and more now, more than you've ever heard it. And so I think that should be next. And then, maybe after that, Chinian can get his chance. But I'm curious to see how he's going to do with Rigondeaux for sure.
Hey, John, I said one more question, but I lied. I wanted to ask you what's going on with Bad Chad Dawson. I know he still has his light heavyweight belt. What's going on with that? Anything on the horizon?
To tell you the truth, I don't even really know at this point. I mean, there's nothing's been said. I'm just kind of, I'm the type of guy like between fights. Even if he had won, I mean, I just wait for the call. If and when they call to let me know what's going on next. But I haven't pursued anything. I'm sure he's taking a rest, and I personally would like him to take a rest and recover his body. I know he went through a lot physically and mentally and emotionally, making the weight and just having that type of fight and having that type of letdown. And so I would like to see him take a rest, a good rest. Kind of like I was compared to Roy Jones when he came back after beating Ruiz, and he fought Tarver kind of quick, and he won that tough fight, but he came back soon after and got knocked out. And I just feel that the weight loss and the recovery and the lack of recovery affected him, and I just, I kind of want Chad to avoid something like that.
Yeah, well, he's in a decent position right now. He still has his belt in the light heavyweight division, and there's a couple of good fights in there. Like one that comes to mind to me is like Bebot Shumanov. I mean, he does have a belt, and he is a light heavyweight, and it'll give Chad an opportunity to fight a guy his own size and somebody that he should have been fighting.
Sure, and I mean the rematch with Pascal is a natural.
Oh yeah.
All things considered, with what happened in their first fight, I would say that's a natural fight. And I think even Cloud was actually in the ring with Ward before and after the last fight. He was kind of like, he was on Ward's side, I guess, and trying to intimidate Chad or whatever he was doing in there. So it looked like he wanted to fight. And, I would, as Chad's trainer, if I was Chad, I would love that fight. I think if Chad's at his absolute best, I don't think he even has that much trouble beating Cloud. So, but it would definitely be an exciting fight and bring a lot of attention.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The Pascal fight, because Pascal has a promoter willing to step up. So that right. You're right. That's probably going to be the first one. But hey, John, man, I appreciate you taking some time with us tonight, and sorry about hanging up on you a few times. Nothing personal, my man. I wouldn't hang up on you on purpose.
I got you. Don't worry.
All right, brother. Well, listen, take care, and I hope to talk to you soon, all right?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
That's John Iceman Scully joining us, giving us his thoughts on the fights that just took place. In case you missed it, in case you are just tuning in, Bam Bam Rios wins an extremely exciting fight against Mike Alvarado. I loved every second of that fight, and if you're a boxing fan, I don't know why you wouldn't have liked every second of that fight. Bam Bam Rios went into that fight going 30 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 21 of his W's coming by knockout. He came out of the fight 31 wins, no losses, and 1 draw with 22 of his fights coming by knockout. Mike Alvarado lost for the first time in his career. He's now 33-1 with 23 knockouts. The question was, did Pat Russell stop the fight prematurely or not? And what do you think? Give us a call. We got the phone lines open. 845-228-8710 is the number. That's 845-228-8710. If you're listening or watching on Fight Now, come on into the chat room and let your opinions be seen and heard. Seen and heard. Yeah. Seen and heard. I'll tell you what, we were saying earlier, I think that fifth round, like Murphy said, Murphy was in the chat room and he says, it's got to be fight of the year so far. Well, yeah, and we're talking about the Bam Bam Rios and Mike Alvarado fight. Yeah, it should be fight of the year. And if it's not, I will tell you this: round 5 has to be fight of the year, round of the year so far. Very action-packed fight. A couple of things that I noticed was number one, Mike Alvarado. He seemed. The thing about Alvarado is that this is a guy that I usually look at and I say to myself, he's really not that skilled. He's just a come-at-you guy. He throws bombs away, and that's it. We've seen him in some pretty, interesting performances, some exciting performances. We've seen him get up off the deck. We've seen him go through some severe cuts. We've seen him lose every round and win in the last round by knockout. So this guy's been around. In this fight against Bam Bam Rios, I noticed, number one, he obviously against Rios, he looked bigger and stronger. There was no question about that, bigger and stronger. But what impressed me the most, and Max Kellerman was mentioning it during the broadcast, he was connecting with some jabs. He was getting his jab going well, and I thought that it was setting up his power shots, something that Rios was not doing. Rios was just coming in. I thought he worked the body really well in the first round, kind of left the body a little bit, and then started headhunting. But what an exciting fight that was. Joining us right now, what's your name and where you calling from?
Hey, Champaign, Illinois.
Hey, how you doing? Who's this, Murph?
Yeah, this is Dave. Murphy.
Hey, Dave Murphy from Champaign, Illinois. What's up, man? What'd you think?
Not much. kind of a downer after that first fight.
Yeah, well, the Donaire-Nishioka fight, definitely. I thought that Nishioka was starting to step it up a little bit. I thought maybe his game plan was to try and get Nonito Donaire maybe a little winded, maybe get him in the 6th and 7th, 8th round, something like that. He did start opening up once he was dropped. He let his hands go, and it started getting exciting. Just like Harold Letterman said, a fight almost started to break out.
Yeah, it seemed like he had a plan. I think he was kind of surprised at first. Nonito was a lot faster than he thought he was going to be, I think. I think that threw him off a bit. But, yeah, he had a decent round around before it got stopped. And, I thought it was a bit quick on the stoppage. I could have stood to watch a little bit more since it was finally getting exciting, but...
Well, his corner stop that I thought the same thing, Dave. I was like, I said, man, what's Saez doing with that stoppage? It was one punch after he got the 8 count, and he said he was okay to continue. Donaire came and landed one punch, and the referee jumped in between. But then we were told, and then saw in the replay that Nishioka's corner stepped in. Which I agree with you. I thought that was kind of strange. He really didn't look that hurt.
Well, it was strange that he showed a little bit of life, and they were so quick to stop it. If they were that worried about him, you'd think they'd have stopped it when it was all one-sided.
Yeah,
he really wasn't hurt.
No, he wasn't hurt, and the one-sidedness of that fight was just the anticipation. I mean, Nonito Donaire. I mean, what do you think of Nonito Donaire? I guess it's not fair to be critical with a fighter when opponents want to just survive. Navarez did a similar, game plan that Nishioka looked like he did today. I mean, you can't really blame him. He didn't do anything wrong, right?
No, I can't blame him. He's had three opponents that have been just that same way. They've been extra tentative. I think when they get in the ring with him, I think they're just surprised by his speed. Although Narvaez was much more tentative. I think he was just wanting to go 12 rounds. I think Nishioka was just surprised by the speed and the power. And then he eventually opened up, so I'll give him credit for that. Narvaez I'm still kind of pissed off at, but I can give Nishioka a pass.
Well, he seemed like he was scared before the fight started, and I know fighters aren't scared of anything, but it did seem he was overly cautious with the left hook. He had that glove up the whole time, which wasn't a dumb move, but it seemed like he was concentrating too much on protecting himself from the left hook rather than mount any kind of offensive attack.
Yeah, I think Roy pointed that out, that he was more worried with that left hook than anything. He could do it himself. He was I think he was taken by surprise by it. And like I said, I give him credit. He knowing that he was taking a beating, he tried to rally. He gave it an effort. So I'll give him that. But I do think Top Rank needs to start thinking about better opponent choices for Nonito. They might want to think about, it's kind of hard to do with the promoters, the different promoters and stuff. They might want to think about doing that Darshinian rematch.
Well,
he had the big win a couple weeks ago.
That's funny.
Might be time to do that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, Murph, because that's what I just asked Scully. Victor Darshinian just moved up in this weight class. He seems to be that zit that doesn't want to go away on Nonito Donaire, and I'm wondering if Donaire is either going to be in the junior featherweight division long enough. Is he going to move up? He does seem like he's taken the weights no problem with his frame, with his body. But I look at Guillermo Rigondeaux, and then who else is left? I mean, Abner Mares would be a great fight. And then you have the rematch with Darshinian. I mean, that's all that's left really for Donaire in the junior featherweight division.
Yeah, there's just not much there at 122 to make for the a decent fight. He obviously can't do any more like these.
No.
I mean, he's losing fans doing it, and I don't think it's fair to him because he's trying in there. It's not like he's stinking up the joint and not making an effort, but he just needs to get away from these guys that kind of go into a shell. He needs somebody that's going to exchange with him, and certainly Rigondeaux and Darshinian, they're not going to let him take the lead and just react,
Bam Bam Rios looked great, Murph, I thought, and so did Mike Alvarado. Do you see a rematch there, or do you think that Bam Bam Rios is going to move on? And if so, who do we expect Rios to fight next? I know they were talking about the winner of the possibility of the winner of Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao, number 4. But that would mean to move up another weight class. I see a lot of good fights in the junior welterweight division for Rios. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't see going to 147. He doesn't carry it well enough yet. I think he'll stay at 140. I think this fight was so good that I think even Bob Arum recognized that he needs to make a rematch. And so I think we're going to see. I think we're going to go right to the rematch. I know Brandon Rios may not like that. He may want to, go elsewhere to a title shot. But I don't see a Tim Bradley Rios fight or anything like that. I think the boxing fans want to see this one again.
Well,
I think even Arum, how Bob likes to give us fights we don't really want to see in place of ones that we do want to see. I think he's met his match tonight. I think people are just going to demand that we see this again right away.
Well, we got Danny Garcia, we got Lucas Matisse, we got Lamont Peterson, even Amir Khan. I mean, there are some really good fights at junior welterweight. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, 140 is loaded, but I think this was this was one of those magical fights that people will want to see again, like a Vasquez Marquez type deal. They'll want to see these two guys go back at it because I think even though I agreed with the stoppage, I think you could make a very strong case that the next time it might be different, and Mike Alvarado would be the winner.
Yeah, I was wondering about the stoppage in the Bam Bam Rios fight. I thought that he deserved at least a count. You could have argued that the referee could have said, well, the ropes were keeping him up and give him a count and give him a shot. Even Rios said, in the post-fight to Max Kellerman that he thought that, because he's such a warrior that they should have let it go on a little bit. What do you think?
Well, he could have done any one of a number of things. He could have grabbed. He could have punched back. He could have spit out his mouthpiece. He could have taken a knee. There were just all kinds of things. I think the problem was he didn't do anything. He was just taking shots. I didn't have a problem with the stoppage. But I think given the opportunity again, he'd have done something. I mean, grab. All he had to do was just grab. But instead he was just taking punches. So the ref did the right thing. But I really think he could have gone on a little bit longer. I've seen guys hurt worse and come back from it. And I thought he fought a very good fight. I had thought, maybe that the body punches that Alvarado had landed early, they were paying dividends. And the round before that, I thought he had his best round. Alvarado didn't. And I thought Rios, the fight was kind of getting away from him a little bit. Just a little bit. It was never one-sided, but I thought Alvarado was was on cruise control and starting to take over a little bit in the round before. Did you think that?
Well, I started thinking, I was almost agreeing with the corner of Alvarado saying that Rios started to look tired and stuff like that. And Rios was taking some shots. There's no question about it. And like I said earlier, I thought Alvarado was setting his power shots up better with the jab and stuff. Something that I didn't think he even possessed. Any kind of boxing skill. But yeah, I can see your point 100%. I think that he was kind of in a comfort zone, and I think he looked up until the stoppage. I thought he looked stronger. I thought that he looked like he was gonna be able to go longer at the same punch output than Rios was. But then again, when you looked at the two faces of the guys, prior to each round, I always kind of like to see what kind of condition they're in. And Alvarado started getting swollen up really after the third round.
Yeah, he wasn't. It looked like he was breaking up a little bit more, but I thought Rios's conditioning was a little worse. It was kind of a weird dichotomy there. I thought Alvarado's face was showing a little bit more signs of damage, but I thought Rios was slowing down at a greater degree. So, Brandon, he sucked it up and he turned it on, and you got to give him full credit for that.
Yeah, no doubt.
He took a hell of a lot of punishment to get to that point. They both did.
Yeah, they definitely both took some shots, and I for one definitely would like to see a rematch, and hopefully we'll get to see one. But anyway, Murph, listen, it was great having you call in, and glad you're take the time and be part of the show, not only today but every day, man. We love having you in that chat room, brother.
Yeah, I love the show, and I love you two guys, and I think we can put that main event behind us and just focus on that first fight we had, and be happy as boxing fans.
Sounds good to me, because I agree with you. I agree with you. There's not much you can. I mean, you can just say Donaire did what he had to do. I mean, I'm not going to blame him, but the Rios-Alvarado fight was everything we thought it was going to be.
It sure was. Fight of the year, definitely, and that fifth round was round of the year, without a doubt.
Had to be.
I'm happy with the evening as a whole.
All right, brother. Well, listen, it was great talking to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right, take care. That's Dave Murphy, and you can check him out. He's usually in our chat room on a daily basis. You could check us out. We broadcast live every day, Monday through Friday, from 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time for now. And you can check out the chat room right on BillyCBoxing.com. Joining us right now, what'd you think, Dax Khan?
I thought that both fights were pretty much went the way I thought they were going to be, except for I was disappointed in the first fight that Mike Alvarado gave that away when he stopped jabbing and he went inside the phone booth.
Well, that fight was really fought in the center of the ring the whole time. I thought that he was smart using his jab, like you mentioned. I thought he was smart, but he still wasn't bouncing around. He wasn't using it to give him distance. I think he was just using it as a timing mechanism. At least that's what it looked like, as a timing mechanism. And we just lost you, Dax. So you're the lucky one. We had Murph, didn't lose him at all. So Dax is going to have to give us a shout back, but. I just thought that the fact that he was using that jab as whether it be a timing mechanism or whether he was using it to obviously set up his power shots, which was exactly what was happening. But we're going to have to get Dax to call back, so hopefully he will, and we'll see what happens now. While we're waiting for that, in case you just joined us, we're doing the post-fight show, Nonito, Donaire, and the Toshiaki-Nishioka fight wasn't what we thought, but the Bam Bam Rios and Mike Alvarado fight certainly was. I don't know what happened there, brother, but go ahead. What were we saying?
Well, basically what you were saying, that Alvarado just pretty much gave that fight away when he stopped jabbing. And he came inside and he allowed Brandon Rios to fight his kind of fight, put his head on the chest, and just throw with the punches. Brandon Rios is the guy with the shorter arm, so it's a lot easier for him to get his shots off, and he's going to have a lot more power than on those inside that close range. So Alvarado gave it away. It was his to win. He was winning those first rounds comfortably. So nobody blame for that except for Alvarado, and you got to give Brandon Rios hats off. But as I was saying before, though, Rios looked pretty tired around the third round. I don't know how he's going to do against that next tier of fighter, the guys who can stand there and bang like that or box like that for the full rounds.
You know, he seems to look tired in all his fights, Dax, doesn't he? I mean, we used to think maybe it was a weight issue or whatever, but he does seem to fight in peaks and valleys. He starts off like a gangbuster. He does go through that time when he's a little tired, and then he seems to catch a second wind. It's funny you say that because I'm saying to myself, oh, man, is he going to catch a second wind? And even at the time of the stoppage, he didn't even seem like he was with that second wind yet.
No, but again, you know, what's going to happen is eventually the chin is going to give out. One of Brandon Rios' biggest assets is his chin, but he's also one of those fighters that I liken to kind of like an Edison Miranda type guy, where once the chin is dented, it stays dented.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, you know, and without that top stamina, once that chin gets dented, and you know you're up against these big guys, these big punchers like the Lucas Matises, or you know even if you went up to welterweight against the Marcos Maidanas or the Andre Bertos, then all of a sudden you're a ruined fighter. So it was a great win for him tonight, but he does have some flaws in this game that he has to fix.
Now,
but hey, let's just enjoy what we've seen tonight because it was a darn good fight, and you know what? Hats off to both guys for laying it all out on the line like that. We don't see that too much anymore lately.
What's your thoughts on Donaire-Nishioka? I mean, I'm a little disappointed in Nishioka, but I guess you can't be critical to Nonito Donaire. He did everything that he wanted to do, I guess.
What I noticed, and again, that's something else I was tweeting on our Talking Boxing account, is that it seems like these guys nowadays, all they want to do is survive against Nonito Donaire, and it's hard for any fighter to look good, no matter how talented they are, when they're in there against top-level guys who are looking just to survive. Perfect example of that is Sergio Martinez. How many guys has he been in there with before the fight with Junior that are just looking to survive against him, and he's just in there trying to figure out a way to look spectacular until finally he lets his hands go, and the job just happens, everything just happens to fall in place, and that's what it is with Donaire. Ever since Fernando Montiel, seems everybody, nobody wants to really engage with him. He's a dangerous guy, and I hate to sit there. I don't want to sound like a rah-rah man and repeat what he said, but like he said, he's a surgeon inside there. When he sees his opening, he lets it go, and he sees the weakness, and he goes after that. I'm sorry, none of these guys, in or around that weight class, there's anything they can do about it. Nobody has any answers for him.
Where do these guys go next? Bam Bam Rios against Mike Alvarado. You think we're going to see the rematch first?
I think a rematch is warranted because Mike Alvarado was winning, in my opinion, on the scorecards, and so I think he deserves a rematch. And I think Brandon Rios is the type of guy that would definitely give him the rematch. One, because Brandon loves that type of fight. Brandon is a warrior, and the fact that Alvarado wasn't dominated, and it was a tactical mistake more than anything. And as for Donaire, pretty much now it's going to be who's going to be willing to fight him. Who's willing to step in there, and who are they willing to risk? And Victor Chinian, no, the only thing that would be good for is Victor Chinian and his want. I can't think of the words here, the exact words I want to use, but his need for revenge, and Gary Shaw wanting to please him, because I seen Vic live a couple weeks ago, and even fighting against a young inexperienced guy like Davali. I see him on his back against Donaire once again. So what's left for Abner Mares is the only thing left for him. Or, of course, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Those are the two fights for him. Donaire's a big guy for that weight class. Donaire can jump up, to 135.
Yeah, well, that's what I was looking at, and I'm seeing, Victor Chinian breaks into the division now, but you got Abner Mares and Guillermo Rigondeaux. Really, that's all that's left for Donaire. You know, it's funny because getting back to the Bam Bam Rios fight, you said that you had Alvarado up there at the time of the stoppage. So did I. I had Alvarado up 58-56. The judges had it even, and one judge had Rios open up 58-56. So strange scoring, at least by my book.
That's a lot of hometown favoritism. I think that was. You know, the best that they could have done was the round before the stoppage is the only one that I would have given to Rios, but the other ones I clearly gave to Alvarado until Alvarado stopped jabbing. I think he was winning clearly, and he was landing the bigger shots. And if you notice in the beginning, those first few rounds, those punches weren't even phasing Alvarado.
Yeah, no, I know, and well, I mean they were landing, but you know that's what I was starting to think. If maybe the size, you know, that he went up too much. Then he's talking about going up to welterweight. Hey, Dax, before we let you go, I know we're talking about the fights that took place tonight, but you and I talked a little bit earlier about the Showtime card last night. I wasn't that impressed, man. I mean, for that card could have been an ESPN card. I mean, really. I mean, the fights weren't competitive. It was just not what we're used to with Showtime. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a lot of one-sided blowouts last night. So, but on paper, they seem good, you know. So it's nothing where anybody expected them to be one-sided blowouts like that. So, you know, on paper, when you sat there and you looked at it on paper, you're saying to yourself, you know what, these are going to be good fights. So it was just unexpected. You know, I got to give Showtime a pass on that. But, yeah, I expected more competitive bouts on there. So got to give Showtime a pass because usually Showtime is more on point with their fights. Now, if this continues to happen, then we're going to have to question Showtime. But, you know, that just happened to be, you know, one of those things. You know, it happens every now and then in boxing. So usually it's HBO that's doing the opposite way around. Tonight, HBO just happened to be the one who delivered the goods for the fans.
Well, it's just like what Murphy just said in the chat room. Ken Hirschman is got his stamp on HBO, and Showtime now is maybe starting to feel that Hirschman's not there. One of the little things that they tried to sprinkle in was Joe Cortez. I thought it was ridiculous. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't mind getting a judge's perspective. You know, the HBO has Harold Letterman, and you know, I don't know if Showtime, you know, has anyone officially, but you know, to have a scorer there, I think that's cool to get somebody else's take on a scoring of a fight, but a referee's take. I mean, you know, especially Joe Cortez. I don't know. I found that zero entertaining.
Well, that's you stole my thunder there as soon as you said but Joe Cortez. Anybody else but Joe Cortez.
I know. And then they're even
Cortez has just lost so much respect in the game over the time. So Joe Cortez has become the prima donna of referees, hasn't he? Over these last couple of years, you know, it just seems like Joe is all about, you know, the spotlight on me. So yeah, anything with Joe Cortez in it, you know, including the fights that he referees, are just, you just don't even want to deal with it. So yeah, and as far as referees' take on it, no, I don't. The only thing they could have done worse than Joe Cortez was put Russell Moore in there.
Well, at least Russell Moore. You know, the thing about Russell Moore is he's a really nice guy. I'm not saying Joe Cortez isn't a nice guy, but at least Russell Moore doesn't, you know, try and I'm fair but I'm firm. You know, I mean, they even threw that in. I don't know, man. I don't know. We were just in Vegas for Fight Now's fight week, and we got wind that Joe Cortez was retiring. We actually saw his last fight was that weekend, and they gave him a big you know, ceremony and all this stuff. I don't know, man. I say good riddance to him. I nothing against him personally. He's a nice guy, but I don't think he's a great referee. And you know, it's interesting. If he would have been there in the Rios-Alvarado fight, how many times would he have broken those two guys up? He never lets fighters fight inside the way they did.
He used to, but, you know, whatever happened, he just changed around one day, you know. I think it was that, which Floyd Mayweather fight was that where he partook in, and then all of a sudden he just went downhill from there. It was there, and I can't remember off the top of my head which Floyd Mayweather fight it was. You know, ever since then he just, you know, went downhill and just totally lost the respect that he gained over his career.
It was the Ortiz fight.
I was
legal.
thinking of one before then, but yeah,
no, the
Ortiz fight, but I was thinking of one before that.
The Ortiz fight was when he didn't put him in his neutral corner, remember? And he messed up with the time. Or are you talking about Pat Russell? Because they both had back-to-back terrible performances, and Pat Russell was basically missed the low blows and was sent down to the minors, so to speak. But Joe Cortez never took any heat for that terrible refereeing job he did with the Ortiz-Mayweather fight.
The two best... No, he never really did. As a matter of fact, if anything, Victor Ortiz was the one that got all the blame on that for not defending yourself at all times. So, Victor Ortiz lost always around that night. In the game right now, the two best referees, in my opinion, are Tony Weeks and, of course, Steve Smoger. If Steve Smoger was in there tonight, the Alvarado-Rios fight would have been stopped, I'll tell you that. It was funny when on the 29th when I was covered the HBO card up at Foxwoods, there was 3 fighters that came up to me afterwards, and they were actually excited that Steve Smoger was the referee for their fight.
Well, he lets fighters fight, And
but they actually came on. One fighter was like, Dax, if Steve Smoger was the referee, how cool was that? They didn't even care they won, just the fact Steve Smoger was the referee.
Yeah, well, that's sad when fighters have to be, proud of a specific referee. Normally, a fighter should not care. They figure they would, be treated the same way, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Did you think? One last question. Did you think that the stoppage was not cool in the Rios-Alvarado fight, or did you think it was justified?
I think Alvarado should have been given a little bit more of a chance because his hands were still up. He wasn't, his body wasn't starting to go limp. Yeah, there was a good fact. He did. The referee did make a good point. His head did snap back a few times. That was the type of, snapping of the neck that can cause that long-term damage later on. But, it wasn't like he wasn't out on his feet. I was arguing with a couple of people on Facebook and on Twitter on this. When you look at the slow motion, and not that Brandon Rios did it deliberately, but that one last punch where he caught Alvarado against the ropes with that overhand right, and Alvarado's head snapped back and it comes forward. And it just seems like he caught the cheek on the top of Rios's head, and I think that hurt him more than anything. But he was swelling up awful quick towards the end, didn't he? Out of nowhere, his face just swelled up out of nowhere. So
who?
I just think
Alvarado,
that round,
right?
Everything was just catching up with him really fast.
Who swelled up? Alvarado.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Alvarado just swelled up really quick.
Yeah, Murphy's talking about Cortez, and he just reminded me of that fight. I think it was Sierra was the guy that was bleeding. The guy was bleeding like a stuck pig. They got an unintentional headbutt, and he crashes to the. It was Lorenzo Sierra, Lorenzo something or other, and he was. They were in a fight, and they had an unintentional headbutt, and Lorenzo is bleeding like a stuck pig. I mean, it was like that scene in Airplane, where blood was pouring out instead of water, right? Instead of the sweat. And Cortez is walking around wondering what to do. Meanwhile, the guy's bleeding all over the canvas. I thought maybe, somebody better, throw him a towel or something before he pumps every ounce of blood he has in his system onto the canvas.
Speaking of, I just realized something, and I don't remember if I can't remember if you had talked about this with John Scully or not. But did you notice Nonito Donaire's hand when they took off the gloves? It was busted open again and bleeding.
Yeah, I saw that, and he was favoring it too. That was his left, wasn't it? Was his left hand?
Yes, and he did that with. Can you remember who else did he do that with that one time? They showed when he took off the gloves that one time, and they showed his hand, and it was busted wide open. It was that same hand in between the knuckles. I wonder if that could have been part of the reason why he wasn't so aggressive with that, because in my opinion, he could have stopped that fight a lot sooner if he would have went after him. Maybe he was a little tentative because of that injury.
Yeah, it's Francisco Lorenzo was the fighter's name, Murph. Francisco Lorenzo, I think. Yeah, I think that was his last fight against the tall guy that he fought. I think that's when he busted up his hand, when he broke it on the guy, when he broke the guy's jaw. Was it Mathubula? Was that the fight?
The African guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey Mathubula. That might be. Yeah, that might have been that. I just remember that. At the end, I remember the very next day, or in the post-fight press conference that's what he was showing. He still had the hand wrap, and his hand was just busted open and bleeding profusely. And that was the first thing I noticed tonight on the television when they took off his glove. You could see that, it was bleeding right through his hand wraps again. So I don't know if this is an ongoing problem with him or this is just, just happens to be a coincidence that this happened again. But could that be part of the reason why, he didn't finish Nishioka off tonight? I think he could have finished him off a lot earlier, especially as tentative as Nishioka was early on in that fight. He was almost like, matter of fact, George Jimenez was making a lot of jokes on Twitter and on Facebook. He says, Nishioka's looking at Donaire like you just seen Godzilla. He's like, oh, no, I was thinking of those old Channel 5 Godzilla movies, the ones that were dubbed over. It was like, oh, no, it's Donaire, run.
Right. No, he needed. I thought the stoppage was. I thought he could have went on, but I guess his corner felt he couldn't. But anyway, well, listen.
It was a done deal anyway. He was starting. Donaire was hurting him at will. Anytime he landed on him, he hurt him. So it was a done deal anyway. And when Nishioka did land some offense on him, he didn't really hold. He didn't cause no damage. He didn't leave no lasting effects, except for that one little 360 spin move. I don't know what was going on there. If Donaire was reliving his breakdancing days or something like that, but that was twice in that fight. He seemed off balance, like his equilibrium wasn't there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he was practicing a breakdance move.
Remember earlier in the fight, though, he went down too. He had that slip.
Well, we had just seen his movie acting debut. He says, the hardest thing was for me to learn how to cry, sir. And then when someone pinched me in the toe, I started to cry, but anyway.
He always does that after his fights, doesn't he? He just goes crazy after all his fights. He's just, especially after the Victor Chinian fight where he was like, ah! It was like he was dubbing for a porno movie, you know what I mean? Just the way he was screaming and moaning like that.
It's funny. All right, Dax. Well, great hearing from you again, and we look forward to you this week on the show, man.
All right, everybody, have a good night. Great night of fights, so we can't be too disappointed. Annie, thanks for joining us.
All right, Dax. We'll talk to you later. That's Dax Khan, and you can catch him on the shows on Thursday, and also his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. And speaking about our show, check it out Monday through Friday right here on Fight Now from 5:30, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you miss it, you can always see the replay on BillyCBoxing.com or on YouTube. And there's something I want to give you guys a little heads up. If anybody else is listening, you want to call in, the lines are still open, 845-228-8710. That's 845-228-8710. Something I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, or I should say Monday on the show, and I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a big topic because I've been saying for a long time about how I think that the problem with boxing today is the fact that promoters don't promote, and they don't, especially when they get a TV gig, a TV revenue from a HBO, Showtime, ESPN, something like that. Well, I'm going to give you an example of why and how a promoter saves a ton of money, and why I say promoters don't promote. I have living proof, and it took place this past weekend, and I'm going to show you why promoters pick certain states and all this stuff. I have all the data, and it all came to me in my lap from the fights this past weekend. So one of the cards basically was the map, was the how to not promote your fighters and get on TV and still make money map for promoters. So I'm going to explain that. I'm going to show you why certain states are always at these the root of these types of fights and everything else, and why other states you never see this because of the expense. So all of that's going to come up on Monday's show, so make sure you tune in there. The big question, the two big fights that just took place, Nonito Donaire against Donaire-Nishioka. Where does these two fighters go from here? Well, right now in the junior featherweight division, as far as the Billy C. boxing rankings, we got Guillermo Rigondeaux number 1. Going into the fight tonight, we had Nishioka rated at number 2 in the junior featherweight division, and Nonito Donaire right behind him at number 3. Now, personally, you got to move Nonito Donaire up to number 2. At least we will in our rankings. But then the question is where does Nishioka go? Does he switch places with Donaire and go to number 3 above Abner Mares? Or does he do like I think? I think he drops down to the middle of the pack. I think he goes to number 5, and you move Abner Mares up to number 3, and Matthew Beulah up to number 4, and I think Nishioka drops down to number 5. That's my personal opinion. Anyway, we'll have to see what happens. What happens with the panel? But as far as fights for these guys, Nishioka, I mean, to get him right back where he needs to be, a fight against a guy like Jeffrey Matthew Beulah or even Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. or Punsawat Craning that guy. A fight against one of those other top 10 guys would help Nishioka. As far as Nonito Donaire, I think in the junior featherweight division there's one guy really that we need to see him in against, and that's Guillermo Rigondeaux. I'm not sure that the rematch with Victor Chenian will ever happen, and I'm not sure that there's much of a demand for it, to be honest with you. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, in the featherweight division, which is where Nonito Donaire may be heading, there are a couple of fights there for him. Now, Yuriorkis Gamboa so far is still, at least in our rankings, he's still rated at number 1 in the featherweight division because he's yet to fight above in the super featherweight division. Even though he has said that he's going to campaign outside of the featherweight division. But we don't rank any fighters until they actually fight outside the division. So right now you look at Nonito Donaire, and then the featherweights, a lot of good fights for Nonito Donaire if he decided to move up to featherweight. Right off the bat, I mean, you go down the list to at least our top 10, and every one of those fights would be a good one, starting with number 10, Jonathan Victor Barros, number 9, Celestino Caballero, which I hope doesn't even fight. I mean, you know how I feel about him. Hozumai Hasawaga is at number 8. Yanni Gonzalez at number 7. Juan Manuel Lopez, and Nonito Donaire. Don't be surprised if we don't see that fight, especially since Juan Manuel Lopez is also a top-ranked fighter and is coming off back-to-back losses and could use a decent payday in a big fight, and that might be the Nonito Donaire fight should he move up into the featherweight division. Miguel Garcia, Chris John is another guy that doesn't seem to fight, but we'll have to wait and see about him. Daniel Ponce de Leon jumped up to number 3 because of his win over Johnny Gonzalez a couple of weeks ago. And then you have Orlando Salido at number 2, and, of course, Yuriorkis Gamboa. So the featherweight division has some pretty decent matchups for Nonito Donaire should he move up. As far as, like I said, in his own division, there's one name, and that name is Guillermo Rigondeaux. End of story. Maybe Abner Mares. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, as far as in the junior welterweight division, which is now where Brandon Bam Bam Rios is going to be campaigning. A lot of good fights for Bam Bam. A lot of good fights. First and foremost, are we going to see a rematch? Will we see the rematch between Bam Bam Rios and Mike Alvarado? Pat Russell was the referee. I thought he did a decent job. I thought the first round, I thought the whole fight was action-packed. Just to give you a rundown how I scored it, I gave the first round to Bam Bam Rios. I gave the second round to Mike Alvarado. I gave the third round to Bam Bam Rios, which was an extremely close round. Any one of these rounds really could have went either way, depending upon your view. The third round I gave to Bam Bam Rios. I think I already said that. The fourth round I went the other way. I went with Alvarez. I gave him the fifth round as well, even though that round, in my opinion, was the round of the year. That was definitely the round of 2012, round number 5 between Bam Bam Rios and Mike Alvarado. Fantastic round. I gave a slight edge to Mike Alvarez in the round. I gave him the sixth round as well. I gave Alvarez the sixth round. The seventh round, I felt was a very close round. It looked like Alvarez was going along, the way he was previously. And those couple of shots that Rios landed, I thought that Alvarado was kind of, pulling it out on your feet kind of a move. I think Pat Russell should have given him an 8 count. The ropes did prevent him from going down at one point. Maybe if he gives him that 8 count, he survives, and we go on to see another round or 2 or 3. Who knows? He didn't seem like he was in any kind of distress after the fight, except his ego a little bit. Pat Russell stopped the fight, at 1 minute 57 seconds, giving Bam Bam Rios the TKO victory. Like I said, my score was 58-56 in favor of Mike Alvarado at the time of the stoppage. I found it kind of interesting that 2 of the 3 judges had it even at 57-57, and the third one had it Bam Bam Rios ahead by the same score as I did. But, hey, I mean, those rounds were close, and, I wasn't ringside, so you never know. As far as the Nonito Donaire fight, and with that said, in the junior welterweight division, I think Bam Bam Rios, I think the Mike Alvarado fight is a good one. But look at all the other fights in that division. You got Danny Garcia, you got Matisse. Lucas Matisse is a guy that likes to do exactly what Bam Bam Rios does. So that's not a bad fight. Lamont Peterson. Now, how about that one? Amir Khan. Does Amir Khan get knocked into Never Never Land with Bam Bam Rios? I mean, now Amir Khan's got a more defensive-minded trainer working his corner, so maybe we see a little more chin protection going on for Amir Khan. So, I don't know. Zab Judah's in his division now. You got Juan Manuel Marquez, Eric Morales if he continues to fight, Kendall Holt. You got a bunch of young up-and-coming fighters that, are also good. Josué, I'm sorry. I always mess up Jose's name. Asselgun, he's a good young fighter, maybe for Rios. Albert Mensa, Pablo Cesar Cano is fighting soon. So there are some decent fights at junior welterweight. But he was already talking about moving up to the welterweight division, which I found extremely strange. But should he decide to go up to that division, which I don't know if his body is ready for it. He seemed kind of small in the junior welterweight division. Mike Alvarado looked way bigger than him. But you look at the welterweight division with Bam Bam Rios, and you see a bunch of names that would make a good fight, like Andre Berto, in my opinion, would be a decent fight. Randall Bailey, Robert Goetz Guerrero, Devon Alexander even. I'd like to see him, get into a fight with Paulie Malignaggi, maybe knock Malignaggi out, And then, of course, could you imagine Bam Bam Rios and Josito Lopez in a welterweight fight? Better yet, Josito Lopez come down to junior welterweight where he belongs and fight Bam Bam Rios. So a lot of good stuff on the horizon for both those fighters, Alvarado and Bam Bam Rios. And I don't think anything is being lost with Mike Alvarado and his fight against Bam Bam Rios. That's for sure. I don't think any of his value went down one little bit. Now, as far as the Nonito Donaire fight and the Toshiaki-Nishioka, what are we going to say? Are we going to blame Nonito Donaire on this fight? I was very critical of his last couple of fights. I watched him carefully in this fight. What I was really looking for was to see, how does Nonito Donaire perform when his opponent doesn't play according to the script, and that's what happened tonight. Toshiaki-Nishioka did not, fight according to the way Nonito Donaire and HBO and all of us wanted. He fought a cautious fight. It looked like he had somewhat of a game plan to take Donaire into the later rounds, and for all intent purposes, he succeeded, and he did start to step it up a little bit. I was surprised at the stoppage from his corner. At first, I thought it was the referee, but then we realized it was the corner. Maybe they saw their fighter in trouble. He certainly wasn't in any kind of trouble after the fight. So, you say to yourself, what's the deal? Do we blame Nonito Donaire? I think we can't. I think Nonito Donaire did everything that he should do. He was trying to set up his shots, and he showed his hand speed. He did not get hurt. I didn't see him get stunned at all. As a matter of fact, I only saw him take a couple of solid shots, and that was in the towards the end of the fight. By the time it was stopped. I mean, rounds 7 and 8. I thought that Nishioka landed a couple of good punches. Nothing that stunned Nonito Donaire. So, hey, I think they said it right. I think Nishioka was a little scared going into that fight. At least that's what he saw. That's what he seemed like to me. But anyway, a couple of other notes here as we wrap it up. Some fights with the Billy C Challenge that I have results on from last night. Donovan George got knocked out by Adonis Stevenson in Canada. David Lemieux looked fantastic in the first round annihilation over Alvaro Ganona. Showtime had how do you say, piss poor presentation on Friday night. It was terrible. It wasn't even as good as an ESPN card, so I was a little disappointed with that. But talk about disappointment. The guy got me going, really sold me hook, line, and sinker. And the gorgeous Annie is in the chat room right now, and I'm embarrassed to admit, especially with her in the chat room, that I actually picked Fraudly Embarrassing to beat David Price, and 82 seconds is all he stood in there. And I thought I had something going for me when he stepped onto the scales and weighed the least amount that he has in probably 6 years. But performance-wise, did nothing. Hopefully that's the end, for the real end of Audley Harrison. Definitely pulled the Shim Sham scam over my eyes. We know that Nonito Donaire, Bam Bam Rios won. Shane McPhilbin lost to John Lewis Dickerson in a fight that was pretty exciting. And in the cruiserweight division, Rakim Chikayev beat Epifano Mendoza. So we had a pretty busy week with the Billy C Challenge. If you're not involved with that, you should sign up. It doesn't cost you anything, and we give prizes away. Like last month's winner, Ryan Kinzit, who won a complete set of boxing cards that I'm going to be sending out to him. And we get prizes every single month for the Billy C Challenge, and then the end of year. So check out the website, www.billycboxing.com, for the latest standings. Don't forget, we do a show every day, Monday through Friday, right here on Fight Now TV. From 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can also catch the feed on BillyCBoxing.com or the replay on BillyCBoxing.com or YouTube or on the radio dial, wherever, or you can become a premium podcast subscriber. Make sure you check out that show. We also do another show called Boxing's Thumbs Up and Thumbs Down. That's on a daily basis. You can also catch the replay on that on BillyCBoxing.com and YouTube. We just released couple of new segments that are all going to become their new own shows. We have the Billy C Boxing and Boxing Hall of Fame in Las Vegas presents In the Ring with Billy C and Steve Lott. We have the Heavyweight Spotlight. We also have the Blast from the Past. Those are three segments that are all going to basically be doing their own show, their own time. And then we also have the return of the Greatest Fight Series with Scotty Krause and myself. So all of that stuff is happening. But anyway, listen, I'm glad you guys could join us on the post-fight show tonight here on Fight Now. For all the information about the channel, if you're catching the stream right now and you don't have Fight Now as your sports, as your Fight Now channel on your sports channel lineup, you need to call your local television provider and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. Then you can get all these post-fight shows, and you can get our daily show on a much better stream than what you're looking at right now. Because it's not a stream, it's on TV, all right? So call your local television provider, tell them you want Fight Now right now, and for all the information about the channel, you can check it out on their website, www.fightnow.com. Hey, listen, glad you could join us for this post-fight show, and hopefully you'll start joining us every day, Monday through Friday, right here on Fight Now. I got to go. I'm glad you could enjoy the fights. We had a good night of boxing on HBO. Until next time, ciao, baby.